I think I would say I really would do anything I can to not be put in this position. But saying that there is nothing I can do about it, logically would make sense to do this in this scenario.
Or at least one person to pull that lever, it's guaranteed to happen at some point.
Yes.
So some number of people are getting killed here, but you are in quite a unique position. You are the only person in this entire scenario who can guarantee that the fewest number of people possible end up dying. By pulling
Fascinating. Fascinating.
the lever, killing that one person, and ending the trolley problem right there. So weirdly, even though it seems like you're choosing between definitely killing one person or the potential to kill nobody, you're actually guaranteed to kill some amount of people if you pass it on to the next person. Because
of course, this only works in the infinite scenario, which isn't logically possible, but this is an hypothetical, and within the rules that have been stated for the discussion of this hypothetical, I'm in agreement.
Because if this does go on infinitely, somebody is going to pull the lever. However, of course, if we switch the laws of physics back on again, we can recognize that this will not, in fact, go on forever. And so my only question would be, when does this end? Like, is it...
I think it's more interesting now, because the previous version, when he's like, if this is going to continue infinitely, kind of gives us the answer already. I think that's the best answer. The only thing that I can see is someone saying, well, I don't want to be responsible, and therefore I'm kind of washing my hands out of it. But indirectly, you would only be hiding from the truth that you still, with your choose for inaction, you still have caused, and the death on, in fact, a potentially enormous amount of people, and so you would only be deluding yourself in that scenario, and therefore I think at that point you would have to make the hard choice. That's it, from a moral perspective. Now he has shifted the scenario, the rules have changed, and therefore if the rules of engagement change with any thought process, then we need to see if the logic still work, or if our morality now is going to change a little bit, or maybe completely. The dynamics have changed. So now the laws of physics are implemented. This is not infinite. What are the numbers that we are dealing with?
Is it 100 people that you could possibly give this to? In that case, I'd be pretty confident that no one's going to pull the lever and kill the innocent people, because I reckon 100 people have it in them to do the morally correct thing.
Okay, before he continues, I think we would have to look at statistics here. What are the chances? What are the numbers of sociopaths and psychopaths within any given population cluster as a general number? I wonder, because that would be an element of this, not to mention, maybe it's not even necessarily the problem of a sociopath. It could also be a problem that someone could make the wrong mistake within that given 100 people. And by the time, as you were saying, you get to number 10 already, or 20, yeah, the risk is still incredible. So you guys say 1%, 3%, maybe even about 5%, Andrew says. 10% says, yeah, I mean, depending on the percentage, that's a massive risk you're taking by rolling that die. So we'll have to say, I don't know, man. Will all those 100 people make the right decision, and so we reach the very end, and then the 100th is not pulling? And you know what really makes this a problem? The numbers, the he's got to go into the exponential numbers and actually show us what we're dealing with in terms of potential victims, which still puts me in a scenario where I would be like, I don't want to roll that die.
But wait, I'm not sure about that, because as the number of people increases that could pull the lever, so do the number of victims. And actually, the number of victims are doubling every time. It's exponential, whereas the number of people who could potentially pull the lever are going up linearly. And I think people often don't really understand the power of exponential growth. There's a famous myth about some ruler of India sometime hundreds and hundreds of years ago. I think it might be like the guy who invents chess really impresses this Indian.
What a guy, by the way, the inventor of chess. What a guy.
Years ago. I think it might be like the guy who invents chess really impresses this Indian ruler. And the ruler says, I'll give you a reward because of this wonderful game that you've invented. Anything you like. And all the inventor of the chessboard wanted in return was for the ruler to take one single grain of rice and put it on the first square of the chessboard. Then just double it. Take 2 grains of rice and put it on the second square. Then 4 on the third square and 8 on the fourth.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna go nuts. What number is it gonna be once you reach this? Millions? Tens of millions? Who the heck knows? This is great. You think about it, it doesn't look like much. This is a very good idea, way to describe. I think it's an excellent, in fact, way to describe exponential growth. So 1 becomes 2 is not a big deal. 2 becomes 4 is not a big deal. 4 becomes 8. You're like, oh, still 8. But this is going to continue. And every time it's going to double. It's going to go out of hand very quickly. I really hope he shows us the numbers. I am so curious. Let's go.
Square, and so on and so forth. And the ruler thinks, I got off pretty easy there, I can do that. It's just grains of rice. Sure thing, and he agrees. So on the first square, he puts 1 grain of rice. On the second, he puts 2. By the time he gets to the 10th square, there's 512 grains of rice. So still pretty manageable. But believe it or not, by the time you get to square number 20, there need to be 524,288 grains of rice on that square. By the time you get to square number 30, the ruler would need 536,870,912 grains of rice to fulfill his promise. So how many grains of rice would need to be placed on the final square of the chessboard? Square number 64?
Trillions, quintillions.
9 quintillion, 223 quadrillion, 372 trillion, 36 billion, 854 million, 775,808. That's a lot of rice. In fact, that's more grains of rice than there have been seconds since the universe began. So even if this scenario only had 100 potential people, and if you passed it on to 100 people and nobody pulled the lever, the game would just end. Even with only 100 people, if you double the number of victims every time, by the time you got to that 100th person, the number of victims would be, well, it's a number too large to actually say out loud. So I'll just put it on the screen.
Yeah. You got to pull that lever. We're back to square 1. Very well argued, by the way. I love the mathematics of it. Good evening, Baron. Insane amount.
If we only got to the 100th person in the chain, if we let this go on to person number 266, the number of victims at that point would be more than the estimated number of atoms in the observable universe. So let's look at some expected value here. Right. Even if the probability that one of those 100 people would pull the lever is incredibly small, because the number of victims involved is so unfathomably large, you have to kind of count these against each other. Such is the power of exponential growth, and such is the reason why I think I would probably just pull the lever at the beginning to get this over with. Okay, so in this one...
Okay, so do we agree? The way he has explained it, yes, I would say that I would pull the lever, having given all of this, because at the end of the day, by refusing to pull the lever, the potential of not having... I would look at pulling the lever as saving all of the other people. And in that scenario, I'm absolutely pulling the lever. Yeah. So interestingly enough, we have different worldviews, completely different source for our morality and ethics, yet we made the same choice. I want to see if someone disagrees, but to me, that seems fair. Yeah, Nicholas, absolutely. In fact, I think it is your moral responsibility to pull that freaking lever if you have been caught at the beginning. Daniele Fabro says, can't we just stop the trailer? Yeah, I mean, of course, as part of the hypothetical, I'm imagining that that's not possible. If that is even a small, minute possibility, then I think we would try and exhaust that. But if we fail, and then we're back to square 1, and we still have to pull that damn lever or not, then I pull the lever, and so would he. What happened to Alex? Yeah, what's wrong with it? I think he's just put some product in it, right? Or do you mean the length? I don't know what you mean by that. Looks like a little bit of gel. When I had short hair, I used to use gel myself.
I would probably just pull the lever at the beginning.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Alex O'Connor, for sharing a fascinating, because we've taken time to kind of discuss. But I have to say, I really liked the video. I don't know about you guys, but I thought this was fascinating. And what I kind of expected this, because I know, to me, Alex O'Connor seems to be a very decent individual, and I think there are a lot of aspects of morality that overlap, but I didn't know if there was going to be any section of this where the fact that we go at morality and ethics from such a diametrically opposite positioning, then I didn't know if there would be a situation where I was like, no, that's the right thing to do, pull the lever, and he'd be like, no, don't pull the lever. That would have been